I never thought I'd find myself in this situation, but here we are. My name's Jake, and I was deployed overseas for almost a year. During that time, I relied on my wife, Sarah, to hold down the fort back home. We'd been together for about 5 years, married for 3. It was one of those relationships where I thought we had it all figured out. Good sex, laughter, trust. Or so I thought. When I left, Sarah seemed a little distant, but I figured it was just the stress of me being gone or her getting used to the quiet house. She was always bitchy about small things, complaining about my late-night calls, saying I didn't give her enough attention, that kind of thing. But I brushed it off. I was focused on my mission, trying to stay strong, trying not to worry about her or what she might be doing. But then little things started to change. I'd come home from my shifts and she'd be cold. Not just tired or stressed, cold, like she was hiding something. She'd get irritated if I asked about her day, and she started canceling plans at the last minute, which wasn't like her. She also became oddly secretive about her phone, always hiding it when I was around or checking it when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but something felt off. One night I was scrolling through my messages, trying to keep myself busy, when I noticed a few texts from someone named Tyler. At first, I thought maybe it was a coworker, but the tone was different, flirty, casual, way too familiar. Then I saw pictures. Not just texts, pictures of Sarah in bed with someone else. I recognized Tyler's face right away. He's her platoon commander. The guy she always said was just a friend, a mentor, someone she looked up to. Yeah, right, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My heart sank and my stomach clenched. I replayed the images in my head, trying to make sense of it all. She was lying to me, cheating on me with a man I trusted her to respect. The betrayal hit hard, but what made it worse was the way she lied about everything. When I confronted her about the texts, she played it off, saying I was just paranoid, that Tyler was like a brother to her, that I was imagining things. She called me insecure, said I was overreacting, but I knew better. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily? I was supposed to be far away in a war zone, fighting for something bigger, and she's sneaking around behind my back. The whole thing was a slap in the face. The trust I had in her was shattered, and I couldn't get those images out of my head. I spent the night staring at the ceiling, feeling numb, trying to process what I'd just uncovered. I didn't sleep much that night, and when I finally did, it was filled with dreams of her and Tyler, of her lying to my face, of everything crumbling. I knew I had a choice to make: ignorance or confrontation. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to face her, but I also knew that once I did, nothing would be the same. The betrayal was too deep, and I was about to find out just how far she was willing to go to hide her lies. The next morning I woke up with a pounding head and a mind racing faster than it ever had before. I knew I couldn't keep quiet, not anymore. I had to confront Sarah. I got out of bed early, even though I was exhausted, and decided to lay everything out on the table. No more hiding from the truth, no matter how ugly it was going to get. I found her in the kitchen, pretending to be busy making coffee, but I could see the guilt lurking behind her eyes. She sensed it too. I looked at her and said, "Sarah, I saw the texts, the pictures, the messages from Tyler." Her face immediately went cold and her lips pressed into a thin line. She looked like she wanted to say something, but no words came out right away. I kept going, my voice steady but filled with a quiet rage. "How long has this been going on? How many times did you see him behind my back? Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Because I did. I've never felt this betrayed in my life. You lied to me every single day I was gone, and you're still lying now." She tried to deny it at first, flipping her story like she always did. "Jake, it's not what you think. I swear it means nothing. It was just a stupid mistake. Tyler's like a brother to me. I told you that. You have to believe me." Her voice was trembling, but her eyes were darting around, looking for an escape route. That bitch was lying through her teeth. I could see it. I snapped. "Stop with the bullshit. I saw the damn pictures. You're sleeping with him. You're cheating on me with the guy I trusted. How could you do this? What the hell is wrong with you?" My voice cracked, but I kept going. "You told me you loved me. We had plans, a life together, and all this time you were in bed with him." She started crying, but it was that fake, bitchy cry that made me want to punch her. "Jake, you don't understand. It was just sex. It didn't mean anything. He's just a friend, I swear. I was lonely and it just happened. It was a mistake. You're overreacting." She was trying to spin it, to make herself look like the victim as always, but I wasn't buying any of it. The betrayal hit me hard, but what made it worse was the way she was so casual about it, like she thought she could just apologize and everything would go back to normal. I looked at her, and I saw a bitchy woman who lied so easily, who thought she could manipulate her way out of this mess. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and disgust. How could I trust her after this? How could she lie so effortlessly? I told her to pack her bags and get out. I didn't want her there anymore, not after what she did. I told her I'd be staying at a buddy's place for a while to clear my head. I didn't want to see her face, didn't want to hear her lies anymore. She begged, said she'd change, that she loved me, that it was a mistake. But love, that was gone. That kind of love doesn't survive betrayal like this. Watching her walk out, I felt like my entire world was collapsing. I'd enlisted for duty, fought in a war, trusted her with my life. And she'd been lying, cheating, hiding her affair right under my nose. I was angry at her, yes, but mostly I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. How blind could I be? How stupid was I to think that she actually loved me? In that moment, I realized I'd been a fool. I put so much faith in her, in us, and now I was left with nothing but broken trust and a hell of a lot of pain. I spent the next few hours trying to piece together my thoughts, debating whether to fight for the marriage or cut my losses. But one thing was clear. She was a liar, a manipulator, and I didn't want to be the fool who stayed and got played again. That's when I decided I needed to think about what I really wanted. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing for sure. Finding out my wife was cheating on me with her platoon commander, Tyler, was the biggest betrayal I'd ever experienced. And I was about to find out just how far I was willing to go to get my revenge. After she left, I sat in my buddy Mark's apartment, just staring at the wall, trying to process everything. I felt like my head was spinning. Anger, sadness, betrayal, all swirling inside me like a tornado. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so trusting, only to get stabbed in the back by the woman I thought I knew. Sarah had always been a bit bitchy, moody, manipulative, quick to lie when it suited her. But I never thought she'd actually cheat on me, especially with someone I trusted so much. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Tyler, her smile, that sneer she had when she thought she was getting away with something. I kept thinking about all the moments we shared, how she was so dismissive of me when I was home, and now I knew why. She'd been cheating on me behind my back, lying about everything, even to my face. The next morning, I started digging into her phone. I needed proof, hard proof, that this wasn't just some misunderstanding or drunken mistake. I spent hours combing through her messages, her social media, anything that could give me more clarity. That's when I found it. More texts, more photos. She'd been sneaking around for months, probably even before I left. She'd even told Tyler she was missing him, that she couldn't wait to see him again. That's when I felt a cold, bitter rage boiling up inside me. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I wanted to be prepared. I started planning my next move, gathering everything I could, screenshots, save files, notes. I needed her to see that I wasn't just some fool who got played. I needed to make her realize she crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I also started thinking about revenge, not the childish kind where I'd lash out, but something calculated, something that would hit her where it hurt the most. I remembered Tyler's face from those pictures. That smirk, that cocky attitude. He thought he was clever, that he could get away with it because I was deployed, because I was away. But I wasn't going to let him walk away unscathed. I knew his routines, his weaknesses. I had a plan forming. I wasn't just going to pack up and leave, no. I was going to make sure they both knew I was watching closely. Later that evening, I took a deep breath and reached out to a couple of my buddies from the platoon, guys I trusted, guys who didn't have a reason to lie. I told them I needed the truth about Sarah and Tyler. They hesitated at first, probably thinking I was overreacting or that I'd blow their cover. But I was clear. This wasn't just about my marriage anymore. It was about justice. I wanted to know everything, and I wanted to make sure I had the evidence. Over the next few days, I learned more than I ever wanted to know. Tyler was bragging about their secret nights, how Sarah was so wild and more than just a friend, how she'd text him while I was out on patrol. My soldiers, my brothers, they caught wind of it all. They knew I was hurt, and some of them didn't hide their disgust. They told me I wasn't crazy, that Sarah had been sneaky, and that Tyler was a real piece of work. The worst part. The more I found out, the more I realized I was completely blindsided. I had trusted her blindly, and she'd used that trust to cheat on me with someone I thought was a good soldier, a man I'd never suspected. That's when I realized I had a choice. I could sit here and let this destroy me, or I could do something about it. The anger was still there, but now I felt a cold resolve taking over. I wasn't just going to leave her and move on. No, I was going to make her pay. I'd find a way to hurt her, to make her regret everything she'd done. Not just for me, but for the betrayal I'd suffered, for the trust she had shattered. I knew I'd have to be smart. If I wanted to come out on top, I couldn't do anything impulsively. I had to be patient, precise. I started setting my plan in motion, gathering evidence, preparing myself emotionally. This wasn't just about ending the marriage anymore. It was about making her realize she'd messed with the wrong guy. I was going to make sure she paid for every lie, every betrayal, and every night she spent with Tyler. This wasn't just heartbreak anymore. It was war. The days that followed felt like walking on razor blades. Every time I thought about confrontations, I kept telling myself to stay calm, to keep my head clear. But inside, I was boiling. The images of her with Tyler, those pictures I'd found, kept flashing in my mind, fueling my resolve. I knew I needed to act, but I also knew I had to be careful. Sarah was manipulative, a real bitch when she wanted to be. She'd lie her way out of anything, and I wasn't about to let her do that again. One evening, I called her. Her voice sounded strained, like she was trying to act innocent but couldn't quite pull it off. I told her I'd come back to talk face to face, that I needed to see her and get some answers. She hesitated, but eventually agreed, probably thinking she could spin some story to get me back in her corner. I told her I'd be there the next day. When I arrived at her place, she was waiting in the living room, all fake tears and nervous smiles. I'd prepared myself for this. I wasn't going to be the weak guy she'd think I was. I laid out all the evidence, screenshots, photos, everything I'd been collecting. I wanted her to see that I knew exactly what she'd been doing, that I was one step ahead. Her reaction was telling. She started to panic, her bitchy mask slipping just a little. "Jake, I don't know what you're talking about. You're reading too much into things. Tyler's like a brother to me. I swear you're overreacting." She looked away, trying to hide her guilt, but her hands trembled slightly. I could see her eyes darting around, searching for a way out. I didn't let her get away with it. "You lied to me, Sarah. You said Tyler was just a friend. That you loved me, but I saw the pictures, I saw the texts. You've been cheating on me for months behind my back. How could you do that? How could you lie to my face like that?" She started crying, fake tears, the kind she always used when she wanted sympathy. "Jake, please, it was just sex. It meant nothing. I was lonely, I was confused. I didn't mean for it to happen, I swear. Tyler's not some monster, he's just a guy. I don't know what got into me." Her voice was trembling and she looked so helpless. But I knew better. I knew she was just trying to manipulate me again, to make me think I was overreacting. I looked at her, feeling a cold fury rise inside. "No more excuses, Sarah. I'm done. You lied, you cheated, and I can't trust you anymore. I want you out of my life, and I want you to think about what you've done. Because I promise I won't be the fool who forgives this. Not after everything." She begged, of course. Said she loved me, that she'd change, that she'd do anything to fix it. But I'd heard that kind of bullshit too many times before. Love. That word lost all its meaning the moment I found out she was screwing around behind my back. I told her it was over, that I was done with her lies and that she needed to leave. Watching her walk out that door, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd finally confronted her, told her exactly what I thought. But inside, I felt hollow. I'd lost my wife, my partner, someone I trusted with everything. And I'd gained a bitter sense of betrayal that I knew wouldn't fade away easily. That night, I stayed alone, trying to process everything. I kept asking myself how I let it get this far, how I could have been so blind. I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust again, or if I'd just carry this pain forever. The anger was still there, but underneath it all there was a deep sadness. It was like losing a part of myself, a part I'd never get back. I also started thinking about Tyler. That guy was a piece of shit, no doubt. He'd used my wife, probably knew what he was doing, playing her like a game. I'd heard enough from my guys that Tyler had a reputation, cocky, disrespectful, already screwing around with other women in the platoon. That son of a bitch had no loyalty, no respect. And Sarah, she'd fallen for it, hook, line, and sinker. She'd willingly been unfaithful to the man she claimed to love, all because she was bored, selfish, or just plain dumb. So I made up my mind. If she thought she could get away with it, she was dead wrong. She made her choice, and now I was going to make sure she knew the consequences. I wasn't about to be some cuckold, some guy who got played and took it. No, I was going to find a way to make her regret every lie, every betrayal. That's what this was about now. Revenge, justice, making her realize she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from, and I was just getting started. The next few days were a blur. I stayed mostly to myself, working through the storm of emotions inside. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was drowning in a deep, simmering hatred. Every thought was focused on revenge, on making Sarah realize she'd lost something real, something she'd taken for granted. I knew I couldn't just walk away and pretend it didn't happen. No, I had to make her see what she'd thrown away, make her feel the pain she'd caused me. I started setting my plan in motion. I reached out to some guys I trusted, the same ones I'd spoken to before. I told them I needed their help, that I wanted to teach her a lesson. I didn't want to just break things off. I wanted her to suffer just a little, to understand that betrayal had consequences. I told them I'd be watching her, lurking in the shadows, and that I wanted to make sure she understood she'd messed with the wrong man. One of my buddies, Mike, had some connections. He was good at hacking, at planting little things that wouldn't be obvious but would send a message. I had him set up a few fake accounts, an anonymous number, and a plan to send her some reminders. Nothing violent or crazy, just enough to shake her up, make her paranoid, and show her I was still in control. I wasn't going to let her get away scot-free. She'd betrayed me, and I was going to return the favor. I also started digging into Tyler's background. I wanted to know everything about him, his routines, his weaknesses, his circle of friends. The more I learned, the clearer it became that this guy was a cocky bastard who thought he was untouchable. He had a reputation for disrespecting women, for being a player, and I knew I could use that. I wasn't about to go after him directly, at least not yet, but I wanted to send a message that he couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Sarah was still trying to play the victim, acting like she was innocent and that I was overreacting. She'd text me, pretending she missed me, begging me to come back, but I knew better. I saw through her bullshit now. She wanted to keep me around, keep me confused, so she could keep lying and hiding her new life. I wasn't falling for that anymore. I blocked her number, cut her out of my mind, and started focusing on my own healing, though I knew that wouldn't be easy. One night, I received a message on that anonymous account I set up. It was simple, just a picture of her with a note that said, "You should have known better, Jake." I felt a rush of satisfaction mixed with cold fury. She thought she could get away with it, but I was still watching. I decided then that I'd make her regret trusting Tyler, regret lying to me, and regret ever crossing me. I knew I couldn't undo what had happened, but I could make her feel the consequences. That's what revenge was about, making her understand that betrayal comes with a price. I was going to ensure she paid it. I still loved her once, maybe in some twisted way I still did, but now I hated her with everything I had. She thought she was smart, that she could cheat and lie her way out of it. But I was ready to show her what real justice looked like. I kept waiting for her next move, planning my counter. I was done being the fool. From now on, she was the one who would be afraid, who would feel exposed, who would learn that betrayal didn't just ruin relationships, it could destroy lives. And I was just getting started. The final blow came unexpectedly, but in hindsight I knew it was inevitable. I had been watching, planning, waiting, and I finally had enough to finalize everything. I didn't want her to think she could just lie and cheat her way out of this. No, I wanted her to feel every ounce of what she'd done. That night I sent her a message, one that would cut deep, one that would leave no doubt about where I stood. I told her I knew everything. Every lie, every secret, every time she'd been with Tyler. I included a few last pieces of evidence, screenshots, times, dates. I even sent her the locations where I knew Tyler had been, confirmed by my guys. I made sure she saw that I had her completely cornered. After that, I blocked her. No more messages, no more games. I wanted her to know that I was done playing nice. The following morning, her phone was flooded with calls and texts, but she didn't even try to explain herself anymore. She knew she'd pushed me too far, crossed a line she couldn't uncross. I saw her face on the video call she desperately tried to make, trembling, guilty, defeated. She pleaded with tears, begging me to forgive her, to give her another chance. But I just stared, emotionless. All I could think about was how she'd lied, how she'd betrayed everything we had built, and how she'd thought she could manipulate me back into her grasp. I realized that I'd reached a point of no return. I couldn't trust her anymore, not as my wife, not as a person. The woman I once loved had turned into someone I barely recognized, someone capable of lies and deceit that cut deeper than any physical wound. I knew I had to walk away, not just physically but emotionally, to rebuild myself from the ashes of what we'd been. I told her to leave, to take her things, and to never come back. I wanted her gone, out of my life for good. Watching her pack her bags, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The rage had dulled into a numbness, but underneath, the pain still lingered. I'd lost someone I'd loved, someone I'd trusted, and I didn't know if I'd ever fully recover from that. In the days that followed, I focused on healing. I threw myself into my work, kept myself busy, and leaned on the support of friends I trusted deeply. The betrayal had shaken me to my core, but I knew I had to move forward. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most, especially when they lie and cheat without remorse. But I also learned that revenge isn't always about revenge itself. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your sense of self, about standing tall even after everything's fallen apart. Looking back, I realized that I was lucky to see her true colors before it was too late. The pain of betrayal will stay with me for a while, but so will the lessons. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fix. But life goes on. I'm still here, still standing, and I refuse to let her betrayal define me. I'll rebuild, I'll move on, and I'll find someone who values me for who I am, someone who won't cheat, lie, or betray. That's what I've learned from this nightmare. No matter how much it hurts, you can come out stronger if you're willing to face the truth and walk away from the lies.